When it comes to wildlife photography, there are a lot of settings that you could adjust. But today we're going to focus on the most important ones, the core settings that are going to make the biggest difference for you out in the field. And make sure you stick around to the ISO settings, as this is one area where a lot of photographers unintentionally sabotage their photos. These apply to every camera system, and understanding these will allow you to be more consistent and less frustrated out in the field. Now the first point is going to be a refresher, continuous autofocus. Continuous focus allows your camera to adjust focus as that subject moves. If you're using single autofocus, you're making your life harder out in the field, and chances are you're going to miss focus if that subject moves. If focus isn't right, then nothing else really matters because you're going to end up with an out of focus image. Even with the correct focus modes, you can still miss the shot, and typically that comes down to using the incorrect focus area settings. Next is your autofocus area mode. Basically how much of your frame your camera is looking at to determine what should be in focus. For perched or predictable subjects, things that aren't moving too much, a small autofocus box or a single autofocus box works best because it allows for precision. For birds in flight or erratic movement, a larger area box or a zone area with tracking will allow you to track on and follow that subject as it moves more erratically in the frame. The key is knowing when to switch and not be locked into one setting no matter what you're photographing. The next setting to understand is burst mode or drive mode. Now we already talked about that wildlife moves very quickly. Using a high-speed burst shooting mode allows you to increase your chances of getting that exact placement of the head and the wings that you're looking for in your photos. Now you don't need to just continuously hold down the shutter button as movement happens, as you're going to end up with a lot of photos to have to sort through when you're editing them. Instead, choose your moments for pressing and holding down the shutter button to be able to capture the frames of the movement you're looking for, but also be judicious in using it. But having these burst modes available to you and having to be able to adjust the frame rates in these burst modes gives you options when you're looking to capture fast action. Now this next setting has saved me in more occasion than one, and that is shooting in RAW format. Shooting in RAW gives you a little bit more flexibility in editing. Typically RAW photos have a little bit more information stored in the details and the shadows of the image. So if you miss up exposure, which happens on occasion, you're able to increase the brightness in the shadows or decrease the brightness in the highlights if you end up underexposing or overexposing. Using the RAW format gives you a little bit of leeway and helps to kind of fix exposure in post if you need to. Now, of course, shooting in RAW format is going to require you to have some sort of photo editing software, so keep that in mind before you switch to shooting in RAW format. But if you're willing to edit, then the control is definitely worth it. The next setting to master is your ISO strategy. Now you can use auto ISO, especially when paired to a minimum shutter speed. This really helps you when light is changing quickly. But here's where people get into trouble. It's important to understand how your auto ISO adjusts and how it is impacted by the metering mode that your camera is set to. Test it out with different metering modes such as evaluative, spot, highlight control, whatever metering modes your camera has. Test how auto ISO interacts with those modes to make sure that you can use it properly and get the exposure you're looking for out in the field, rather than getting underexposed subjects or overexposed situations because your camera is metering for the overall scene rather than your subject. Spending time testing this before you're out in the field can save you a lot of frustration and a lot of missed opportunities. When used intentionally, auto ISO can really decrease the frustration of changing a lot of settings in the field when lighting changes and your subject is on the move. And the last setting you should really understand is your image stabilization. Image stabilization is often misunderstood. It doesn't impact freezing motion that your subject is doing. Instead, it limits the camera shake that you have as you're holding the camera and lens combination. You still need to have the proper shutter speed to be able to freeze the motion that your subject is doing. It's important to know how your image stabilization interacts with how you're hand holding and also when you're on the tripod. Test it out again before you leave and it'll really help you achieve the sharpest images you possibly can. Now there are dozens of settings that you can adjust on your camera, but understanding continuous autofocus modes, your focus area settings, the drive modes that your camera has, auto ISO, file format, and your image stabilization will really help you understand the fundamentals of how your camera operates and what you need to understand in the field in the moment to get the photos you're looking for. Mastering these first really lay the groundwork for the more advanced settings that you can learn down the road. And it really makes it so much easier when you have the fundamentals known. What camera settings confuse you the most when you're just starting out? I'd love to hear you down in the comments down below. And that'll be it. I'll see you next week for the next Tips Tuesday.